Hi, my name is Misha Miller, and I work at the 21st Century Learning Division for Washoe County School District. Prior to my current position, I taught math at the middle school level for 12 years and fifth grade for 2 years. And I'm happy to be here today to talk to you about real world math. The objectives or discussion points for our webinar today are: why should we include real world math in our math classes? Where can I find real world math resources? What if I want students to look for math in their world? What are some ideas for doing that? And how real world does it have to be? As you know, in all of our webinars, we like to focus on our 6 dimensions for 21st century learning. And these are elements that you want to consider when planning your lessons. How can I bring in collaboration, knowledge construction, real world problem solving and innovation? How can I get the students to use the technology for learning? How can I get them to use self-regulation and skilled communication? So we're going to start with, why do we want to use real world math in our math classrooms? And I have a couple examples that I want you to watch: an elementary example and a secondary example. So after watching these 2 video examples, my takeaway from these is not just students doing word problems. That's not what real world math is. In the elementary example, students were asked, what do they wonder? They were asked to make connections between the math, their learning, and their world. In the secondary example, the students were tasked with an extended real-world problem where they had to actively engage in solving it. What are people saying about real-world math? So when I was reading this blog, what I got from it is that students want to learn more when they're engaged with the problem. If they're invested, they will persevere in learning the math. When I went to this blog, they talked about wanting students to get excited about math. We want them to see what they're learning applies to the real world. What do students think about math? In one study, they want a relaxed, stress-free environment. And teachers would have time to be flexible, to move slowly through the curriculum, and to cover the concepts comprehensively. This is what students want. They want curriculum closely tied to real-world application, that skills learned in school would have a direct connection to jobs, and that technology and digital tools would be current and effectively used to enrich the educational experience. I bet if talking to teachers, a lot of teachers would want the same thing that students want. What do students think about math? We want to turn students on to math and STEM careers. Real world math may be that hook for some students. Many years ago, I attended a Triangle Coalition for STEM Education in Washington, D.C. They're a group that advocates for STEM education. I remember them sharing a statistic with us that really stuck with me. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I do remember them to be shocking. The gist of it was that the bulk of students in our higher level math and science college classes are not American students, but instead foreign students who are coming to America to take advantage of our university's math and science courses. Foreign students see the value in learning in math. My hope is that because there's such an emphasis on STEM in today's education, that those statistics are changing. I wanted to get some student feedback specifically on real world math, so I asked some of my middle school math teacher friends to have their students respond to this question. How do you feel about doing math problems or projects that are real world or have a connection to the real world? And here's some quotes from students. I can relate to them. They give me insight on the real world problems. They give me a reason to want to learn because I know I will need them. Helps remind me to pay attention to the concept. I love this one. I like them, but some of the real world problems are like if a pigeon could eat 10 pounds of hamburger a day and you had pounds of hamburger, how many pigeons would you feed? Those I don't like. That is not something I need to know, and it's not a real world problem. But if they're something I might use in the future, I definitely like them. So again, real world math is more than just word problems out of your textbook. Here's a compilation of some really great real world math resources. I'll start with Mathlicious. This is the Mathlicious site. Let me see if I can get us. I'm signed in. This is a paid site, but it's very reasonable. And I would highly recommend you checking it out, even though it is a paid site. This took me to a specific lesson that I picked out that I wanted to share during this webinar, and it's the Bigfoot conspiracy. Should people with small feet pay less for shoes? I really like Mathlicious because they really prompt those inquisitive, highly engaging questions that students are interested in diving in and figuring out the answer to. And the way Mathlicious sets up their lessons is in 3 tabs. So they have the Plan tab, the Teach tab, and the Reflect tab. And so here on the Plan tab, you can see what the lesson focus is all about, what students will do, what standards are connected to this lesson, and math practices. Before you begin, downloads for the lesson guide, student handout, project extensions, and also if you keep scrolling down, what are some related lessons? So once you, as a teacher, have planned out your lesson, then you go to the Teach tab. And here's the interactive that you use with the students to teach. So here's your prompt. Should all sizes cost the same? Your question 1. And I like how here's an example of size 7, how much it weighs, size 8, size 9, and then notice underneath it, here I have my price versus size and my weight versus size that I can explore with and visually see. My question 2, you calculate, then you can show all. Question 3, okay, so notice how they make it interactive for you to manipulate with the math. And question 4, again, it allows you to manipulate with it and interact with the lesson with their math tools that they have on their website. And then the Reflect tab, which in this case, there isn't anything posted, but the intent of this Reflect tab is for you as a teacher to reflect on the lesson, what went well, what things you're wondering about, maybe what extensions you used, and it's a community. So the next teacher that comes along and teaches this lesson can address some of the reflections that you put in your post, maybe answer a question or something that they did that worked well, that you struggled with. So it just helps to build community around this specific lesson. I'll take you back to lessons so that you can see that it's super easy to search for a lesson based on a mathematic concept or a keyword. You can also filter by grade level, by topic, and by standard. And so if I was looking for a specific grade 7 and expressions and equations, and then I could go down to a specific standard and then click on filter to see what lessons meet all of that criteria. I am going to ask you to explore more on the About tab and using Mathalicious. They do a really nice job of breaking down on this tab a short video about their lessons, how to use the Plan tab, Teach tab, Reflect tab, and then using the interactive tools. I really liked this video. So at this time, I'm going to ask you to explore with the About using Mathalicious information. STEM. So this is stemcollaborative.org, and if I hover over the 4 different projects, it'll tell you about it. So this is Math by Design, and you become a junior architect and create 2 virtual environments using geometry, measurement skills. The interactive challenges encourage problem solving and critical thinking while building mathematics skills. This is Scale City, so you travel through Kentucky on a virtual road trip to learn about the mathematics of scale as you explore 8 exciting roadside attractions. Rock and Roll Road Trip. I used this one in my class and I really liked it, but at this time when you click on that link, it doesn't take you to the activity. So I have contacted them, but I haven't heard back to see if this specific project is still available. So I'm going to skip the description on that one because at this time it's not available. And then Proportionland. Reason your way through 8 amusement park attractions by solving science-based proportional reasoning challenges. So that's STEM Collaborative. So if you're a STEM-focused school, and these days we all need to be focusing more on STEM and ways to bring in and integrate science, technology, engineering, and math, you might want to check out these different investigations. Figure This is a really great website and specifically kind of targeted towards challenges for families. So a great way to build maybe a parent-student activity that students work on and parents work on at home. Here's an example. So here's the challenge index with all of the challenges, and you can see as I scroll down, there's quite a few. And if I just start with the very first one and line up, prompts you with a question. How long do you have to stand in line? So figure this. How long do you think you would have to wait in this line if you hold number 300? It gives you a hint. It talks about your connection between why is estimation and measurement important. Businesses such as banks, fast food restaurants, ski areas, and airports need efficient ways to minimize time spent waiting in lines. So there's your connection to the real world. Along the top here, I have some tabs for getting started. So it gives me little prompting clues, the amount of time it would take for one person to buy a ticket. Use this estimate to find the amount of time you would have to wait in line if you were holding the number 300. If you keep scrolling through, it does give you a quick answer and what they did to figure it out. Gives you some more try these that are related to that one. I like this did you know, some facts to keep the kids engaged and see the application. Think about this. And then resources and try another challenge. So it takes you back to what's the next challenge in the challenge index, the beating heart. So I really like this site. I like that you get immediate feedback, you get hints along the way, a lot of good discussion questions that families could be having. Certainly use this in the classroom too, but a really great way to extend your classroom outside of the school day and involve families as well. Watch, Know, Learn. Watch, Know, Learn is a video repository, and I've already done a search. My age filter is set from 3 to 18, and these are all math in the real world videos of varying lengths. So some are quite lengthy and some are shorter. But if you scroll through, you can see where they're from, when they were produced, and then it talks about, if you expand this a little bit, where's the application of math. And so this is, it presents a video game related math challenge, Ice Cream the Italian Way, Cooking with Fractions. This one Got Math from TeacherTube. So it has gone out and found real world math videos, and this is a collection of those. Finding sales tax, designing stronger skateboards. So it doesn't necessarily give you a lesson to do, but if you're working on a concept and you want to find a real world connection, or you want to build a lesson from one of these videos, this could be a great place to check out to give you some ideas of seeing the math in the world. Yummy Math. today's prompt is Ebola updated. And so this is a real world lesson. What this website does is provides teachers and students with mathematics that's relevant to our world today. And notice along the top here that I can search by grade level and math concept for kind of little real world problem solving prompts that connect to my standards. And so if I just clicked on read more to see what this one is about, notice that it gives me a little information about the current Ebola outbreak, and the World Health Organization has been updating data frequently. And so this, I presume to be teacher or person that's created this prompt, has created an activity and connected it to Common Core state standards. If I click on the PDF, it gives me my map, and it gives me all of the data up through September 20th. So I like that instead of maybe having a textbook word problem that was from 10 years ago, we can maximize the usage of the internet by bringing in relevant and timely data for current problems that we can discuss and work on in class. So we have all the data. This person has created one graph. They're asking you to make observations from the graph. List 4 comparisons, graphs, or calculations that you plan to make with this data. So very open-ended, which I really like about this. Have the percentage of fatalities change since the beginning of this outbreak? Give some examples. Does the rate of spread seem to be steady, increasing, or decreasing? Do some countries seem to be handling this devastation more successfully than others? And then answer your own 4 questions and create a graph that demonstrates at least one of your observations. Really like this. I'm going to go back. Notice too that they have the data in an Excel spreadsheet. So you can download that and you can open that up. So students can be manipulating with that data and filtering or sorting or creating graphs using Excel. So I really like how they put the data in the hands of the students to analyze. So that's just one example. Go back to home. If I keep scrolling down, I can see a prompt from September 21st, Never-Ending Pasta. On September 8th, Olive Garden offered a $100 pass for Never-Ending Pasta and Coca-Cola soft drinks. The 1,000 patrons who quickly brought up the passes will be entitled to as much pasta as they like with toppings from September 22nd to November 9th. The pasta pass sold out in 45 minutes. So it helps teachers who are busy, find resources and find interesting math to bring into their classroom that's relevant and connects to the real world, and poses some questions that you might consider discussing in your class or having students discuss. Again, just wanted to point out that you can search along the top for different grade levels. And then everything I've showed you is free. They do have membership options. And for $17.95 a year, you can access the activity solutions, teacher tips, and relevant Excel attachments. So you have access to all of the student tasks for free, but if you want to access the activity solutions and the teacher tips, then there is a charge for $17.95 a year. So that is Yummy Math. Get the Math is a website that has some real-world math challenges for middle school age students. So math and music, math and fashion, math and video games, math and restaurants, math and basketball, and math and special effects. And if I click on the teacher tab here, they have the lesson plans that are Common Core aligned. So they help provide all the resources you need to use these challenges in your class. Robert Kaplinsky. In some ways, I think that his site is similar to Yummy Math. Again, notice that I can search by grade level. I go ahead and look at this very first one. How many soda combos are there on a Coke Freestyle? So it presents you or the students with the situation, what the challenge is, proposes questions that you could ask that help students down that problem-solving path, has consider this prompt. Connects it to the content standards. And then notice it has, you can download the file and download the PDF. So if I click on downloading the PDF, here I have the PDF version of what we just scrolled through. You can subscribe to the lesson, subscribe to the blog. Some more math resources along here. So this is his blog, and his blog is all about posing real-world math lessons. Estimation 180. I think we can never estimate too much with our students. It really helps them to build number sense and math reasoning. So this is a really great website that is estimation, 180 days of estimation. So if I click on days, and let's just go to day 1 through 10, you can see different prompts for each day. If I come down to say day 6, how many almonds are in the cup? So this give him credit and use his name. Andrew Stadell. So Andrew Stadell, hope I'm pronouncing that right, has built-in Google Forms into his website as well. So his prompt is how many almonds are in the cup. Notice that this is a quarter cup. Put 1 almond off to the side, and then students are going to fill out what's too low of an estimate, what would be too high of an estimate, and then what their estimate is. and then the reasoning behind it. Okay, and so then immediately after that, you can get the answer. You can look at what others have estimated. So that Google form populated into this Google Sheet, and you can see what others have said too low of an estimate is. So this is a great discussion piece too, talking about, well, what would be too low and why would it be too low, and what would be too high and why would it be too high, and what the estimate is, what their reasoning was for determining their estimate, and then their name. And then here's the proof in the pudding. So if you don't believe that there's 28, he's going to actually lay them out there so you can see that there were 28 almonds in that quarter cup. So I really like this website for building students, really working on estimation and building those estimation skills. Real world math are activities that utilize Google Earth and SketchUp to build math understanding and address math standards. And so I wanted to point out to you that if I go to the teachers page and say I'm going to lessons and I want to work on problem-based lessons, I want to click on it, it will show me the different lessons. Now, I'm already in there, so if you try to do that, you might be prompted to input a password. And this is a free site, and he will give you the password to access all the materials on the teacher tab. You just have to fill out this Google form and submit it to him, and then he'll email you with the password so that you can access everything on the teacher tab. So say I want to work on, how about water problems? So here's my prompt. My objectives: collect and record terrain data, express changes in elevation as integers, analyze data on a chart and make decisions based on that data, work cooperatively with a partner, gain an understanding of a real-world problem. So it has to do with inadequate supply of water. For many, this means that they must travel miles every day to reach their water source. This task of hauling water typically falls upon women and children. For this lesson, the students are given several paths to water and asked to analyze the changes in elevation. And so I'm going to go over to lesson downloads and project-based learning. And if I scroll down, you can see, so I want to do the water problem. I'm going to download that. It's a KMZ file that is imported into Google Earth that allows me to collect my data and information. So I'm opening up that file. I have Google Earth installed on my computer, which allows me to interact with this lesson now. And this is a nice, if you're not familiar with Google Earth, this pop-up is nice to get started with navigating. How do you navigate? How do you view layers? How do you search for places? So a great built-in tutorial. And here's my prompt. What would you do if you had to get water from the river below? What route would you take? And then the directions. Okay, so here I am opened up in Google Maps, and now I can dive into that area and I can start exploring with this problem. So really a different way to relate to real world math problem solving using Google Earth and Google SketchUp. Relevant mathematics. I don't know, the first thing I see is spread of zombieism, so I gotta click there. So, breaking news. A breakout of zombies has occurred. So here's the prompt. Can you help us track the spread of the disease? And probing questions. Notice that I have my connection to Common Core Standards. Notice there's a tab here for teacher stuff. And going back to student tasks, by topic or by standard. And along here, I have some filtering that I can do. There is a cost to a portion of this site. I'm just going to try to, if I click on subscribe, so the free plan, I do have access to all student tasks, but I can only access some sample lessons. With a membership plan, I have access to all student tasks and teacher editions and access to all lessons. But I think it's pretty powerful in the free plan just having access to all student tasks. And then as a math department or a PLC, you guys can build the lessons around those tasks to meet your content needs and your students' needs. And then math in daily life. So this is the Annenberg Learner website and Math Interactives. So for instance, I would click on this first one, playing to win. It poses a problem, talks about the math. Place my bets. And then off here to the side, statistics and problem solving. Here's my interactive exploration, my learning objective. Notice if I click on a problem solving process, I can write and reflect. I have a video segment that I can view and watch. Also, oftentimes there's interactives of some sort where students are putting in information or they're manipulating with a math tool to build understanding. So it's all laid out for you. So I encourage you to check those out and see if any of those meet your needs and your students' needs. So these are just some of my favorite real-world math resources. Where can you find math examples? How I found mine is I just Googled it. I Googled real-world math and looked at what came up. We have a collection of real-world math resources on our Pinterest board that you can explore with more. You can ask Dr. Math. So if you were trying to find a real-world connection for imaginary numbers, you could put in imaginary numbers in real life and see what comes back. Sometimes it's hard to find or think of a real-world connection, especially when you get to the upper levels of math that students find applicable still. So by going to Dr. Math and asking might help you to build those connections and see it in a different way. Math Overflow Wiki. So this is real world applications of mathematics. There's real world math publications out there that help you to see the math in our 21st century world. And some more Pinterest boards. So Math is Real Life Pinterest board. Here's the Yummy Math Pinterest board. Notice they have 81 pins. So we just saw this prompt when we were looking at their website. Just scrolling through so you can get an idea. It's really what I love about Pinterest is it gives you a visual that kind of catches your eye, and then you can read more about it and then go directly to that site. So if you're not familiar with Pinterest, if this is crop circles and math geometry constructions, that's something I want to check out. You would click on that pin and then click on it one more time to take you to that specific prompt. Here's Robert Kaplitzky's Pinterest board. Okay, notice 169 pins. He's broken it down to real world problem solving, elementary, middle, and high school. So that's kind of nice. So he has 4 different boards that you can click on, and 3 of them are targeted towards specific grade levels. And then what could you do with this? So this is a Twitter hashtag where people come back with finding perplexing situations, problems, pictures, and then asking, what could you do with this to build a lesson in math? I think a really great way to help students to see math and be looking for math in their world is to point out some bad math examples and have them look for those out in the world. So here's a great example. It was $2.99. Now it's $1.99. Do you see where the bad math is? How much do they save? On Richard Burns' website, Free Technology for Teachers, he posted bad math in the real world when he had an encounter with bad math, and then referenced a Flickr group. So if I click on this, where I'm going to say math teachers, but it could be anybody, is posting photographs of bad math out in the world. So notice I have some examples that aren't using American money, but a great way to expose kids to different currencies and that bad math occurs all over the world and not just in the United States. How about 38 of 37? big value $4 meals. But when I look at the prices, they're all over $4. I like this one. How about this? Clearance. It was $5, now it's $7. That's a good deal. So getting kids to look around them and see where math is in their world could be as easy as having them look for bad math in the world. So have students look for bad math. How about have them write photo-inspired math problems? Holly Young is a trainer in our district, and she, on her website, came up with a contest. It was the Digital Photo and Math Problem Contest. And I really loved this contest. I kind of just took it and ran with it for my kids. And what it entails is having students take a photograph and then write a word problem that's inspired from that photograph. So here's an example. Nick is obviously tall enough to go on this ride. Write an inequality to show who would and who wouldn't be tall enough to ride it. Keep scrolling down. Here are examples of what students have done. So you can see the photograph they took and then the problem that they prompted. 6 blue jays take turns removing 1 peanut at a time from the bird feeder. About 10% of the 210 peanut shells are empty and the birds do not take them. How many peanuts does each blue jay take? A notebook is 9/10 of a centimeter thick and the locker is 30 centimeters wide. How many notebooks can fit along the bottom of the locker? So getting kids to look for math in their world. And let me tell you, when I would have students do this, they were much more engaged with solving each other's problems than they were ever engaged with solving problems that I came up with. And students have a tendency not to use friendly numbers. So some real world complicated math, complex math, was left to be had in solving some of these students' problems. And then you could produce a math on location. So math on location is something that I came up with. It was a podcast that I created, but I've seen other teachers do this as well. And so this is a podcast series of just me out in the world interacting with math and presenting a problem for students to solve. This is an example of one of the podcast episodes, Math on Location at the Metro. I'm going to have you watch that. And then here's another episode, Math on Location at the Sheraton Hotel in Denver, Colorado. What I liked about doing this is it seemed like every time I went to on a vacation, I was inspired to do a Math on Location episode. And it brought different parts of the world to our classroom. And kids were excited to see myself interacting with math and presenting the problem. It made it more engaging for whatever reason than doing a similar problem in the textbook. And as I produced more episodes, I started with there being maybe one correct answer, but different ways to get that answer. And they kind of morphed as I produced more into question prompts or problem solving that would produce more than one right answer and different ways of getting it. And those are the ones that I really liked because it created great discussions in our classroom. So remember in the webinar, we also talked about how real world does it really have to be, and that was one of the objectives that we were going to talk about today. And if you're a follower of Dan Meyer's blog, you may be familiar with his fake world math, but he proposes, and if I scroll down through some of his blog prompts, that it doesn't really have to be real world. The key and the point of math class is to build a student's capacity to puzzle and unpuzzle themselves, no matter what form those puzzles take. He says, find those puzzles in the real world, in the fake world, in the job world, or in another world, in any world. It doesn't matter. So they don't have to be completely real world to engage students and for students to persevere in solving. It just has to create that. Is it enough of a problem to puzzle them and make them want to solve it? So video games engage, and they're not necessarily real world. There are lots and lots of students out there playing Minecraft. Minecraft EDU gives you an opportunity to utilize their enthusiasm for playing Minecraft and bring that into your math classroom. Lots of math teachers out there right now that are using Minecraft to help students to understand math concepts better. Games keep kids persevering and engaged. Here's an example of a teacher that uses a caterpillar game and real world math to get kids engaged in learning about their math concepts. Puzzles don't present a real world problem or a connection, but they are engaging. Here's an example of a Ken puzzle. I use lots of different puzzles in my classroom, and while it doesn't appeal to all kids, they appeal to many kids, and it's amazing to see how kids can persevere during a video game and persevere during a puzzle, but then when you present them with a word problem, they're like, where do I start? So we need to build those experiences with students and help them to see that they can persevere in lots of different situations. Brain teasers are also engaging. So here's a post from Kathy. Sort of real world math. So, and it's probably math teachers, you're familiar with the leg problem and how she used this problem to engage her students. So brain teasers can engage as well, and they're not necessarily always have a relevant real world connection. I'm going to leave you with watching this one last video by Annie Fetter at a NCTM Ignite session. And the focus of this is what do you wonder? And getting kids to wonder and instilling that in them. Depending on which resource intrigued you and that you might potentially incorporate into your math class, would factor into which of the 6 dimensions you may be focused on working on. Many of them may have been suited to real-world problem solving and innovation. Are students working on a real-world problem? Are they trying to produce a product or a method as a solution to that problem? Are they using technology to help them to construct their knowledge? And are they having to use skilled communication, maybe with photo-inspired math problems and writing their own word problem to a specific audience? Did they have to use skilled communication? Our disclaimer, if you're using any websites where students have to create a login or you're posting their student work online, you want to make sure that you are talking with your site administrator about the things you're doing in your classroom that pertain to technology, and that you are seeking written permission from parents for students to create logins for sites on the internet or to post their work online. As always, you want to explore more and check out more ideas. You want to check out all of our Pinterest boards, and from there you can click specifically on the Real World Math board. We have a badge program if you're interested in stepping through the process to bring more 21st century learning into your classroom. Check out our website at wcsd21.com. And I want to thank you for joining me today. If you're interested in going back through this presentation and clicking on all the links to read more, here is the link, URL to this Google presentation. Thank you.